Our story begins with a young man named Kim Jong-gyum, who is in solitude, reflecting on the bizarre and unfortunate series of events that have led him to his current predicament. He recounts how Kim Sol, a man he never expected to meet, forces him into the world of boxing. This decision leads to a grueling period of intense training that pushes him to his limits. Despite the agony, our hero perseveres. He acknowledges that simply saying no was never really an option for him. Rather than trying to escape his circumstances, he chooses what he considers a slightly better hell, enduring the rigorous training even though boxing isn't his passion. Later, Kim Sol casually reveals the real reason for recruiting him into the sport. He simply needs a sparring partner because there's no one else in the junior division. Kim is taken aback, finding the excuse ridiculous, but he realizes that what's done is done. Fast forward to the present, our hero now finds himself working at a logistics center. As he looks around, he notices he is talking to a robot. The lack of warmth and the sparse presence of people make the place feel cold and eerie. He begins to question if he is even in the right location. The impersonal setting prompts him to reminisce about his life just 2 months ago, when he had been freshly discharged from the military. He recalls the fleeting joy of returning home, which vanishes almost immediately. His family decides to move to a larger house, but with one major caveat: they leave him behind. They relocate to an upgraded home with Jong-bu, while our lucky guy ends up alone in a tiny studio apartment near the school. His parents, as a parting gift, pay the deposit and half a year's rent. Just like that, he starts a new life filled with forced solitude. With newfound freedom, our hero dives into a job hunt. He isn't exactly desperate. He still has some savings from his time in the military and receives a government scholarship as part of a multi-child family. So he takes things slowly, perhaps too slowly. He imagines romantic encounters at quaint cafes and dreams of meeting someone special, but reality quickly humbles him. When he applies for a job at a cafe, he is rejected for lacking experience. The rejection stings, shattering his dreams as he faces the harsh truth that finding a job isn't as easy as he had hoped. A month into his search, boredom becomes unbearable. He starts feeling useless and hollow. In a moment of frustration, he calls his sisters to vent, only for them to laugh and call him an idiot for moving out so soon. They tease him, saying he should have stayed home longer. In an attempt to help, his sisters suggest he apply to their gym, or at least try working as a delivery driver. They insist that even delivery jobs have become easier now, thanks to AI systems and automation. They recommend a place called PAX Fulfillment Center, where many people his age are currently working. Curious and desperate for change, Kim decides to give it a try. Upon arriving at the PAX Fulfillment Center, he is once again struck by the sterile environment and robotic interactions. Still, he is surprised at how easily he lands the job. Soon, Manager Shin appears, clearly flustered due to a problem with the inventory. The system insists there is tuna in stock when, in reality, they are all out. Manager Shin asks the courier to help check the warehouse. Kim agrees and heads off to search for the missing tuna. As he walks through the warehouse, he jokes internally that even the robot Pax feels warmer than Manager Shin. He manages to find the tuna on the first floor, surprised that it is not in its designated spot. However, as he opens the door to retrieve it, the door slams shut and locks behind him. Realizing he is trapped, he tries calling Manager Shin, but the call goes straight to voicemail. He considers calling emergency services, but decides against it, not wanting to make things awkward with his new manager over something that doesn't seem too serious. Stuck in the locked warehouse, our unlucky hero decides to wait it out. He texts his sister, explaining the situation. She finds it amusing and jokes that he's working at an escape room. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes from nearby. A building has collapsed. His sister calls him in a panic, but the call drops mid-conversation. Something is clearly wrong. A robotic voice booms through the area, warning everyone to evacuate immediately and seek shelter. Now fully alert, our unlucky hero starts to panic. He shouts for help, bangs on the door, and even tries calling 119, but the signal is too weak. Fear begins to creep in. If a war or large-scale disaster is breaking out, he might be in serious danger. As he tries to attract attention, he hears something outside the door. He freezes, sensing that something is out there, something not human. A strange entity slinks past the door, and Kim instinctively understands that staying silent is his only shot at survival. Whatever that thing is, it doesn't seem friendly. Left alone in the warehouse, our hero struggles to process the situation. He sits against the cold wall, mind racing as destruction continues outside. Hours turn into days. By the third day, no one has come to find him, and he begins to accept the horrifying possibility that something major has happened to the world outside. Running low on battery, he starts typing what he believes might be his last note. The alarms have finally stopped since yesterday, giving him a rare chance to rest. Just as he prepares for the worst, a strange notification suddenly appears before him. He stares at it in disbelief as the system claims he has awakened a unique ability, a personal subspace that allows him to store any object. Thinking he's hallucinating, he decides to play along and instructs the system to store the entire PAX fulfillment center. To his shock, the system confirms his request. Moments later, the warehouse disappears, revealing a bleak, post-apocalyptic wasteland. Our hero is stunned. Before he can fully grasp what's happening, another alert pops up, informing him that an operating system compatible with his new ability is being installed. His head throbs as the update completes. He recalls a thunderous roar he heard days ago and wonders if it came from some beast, perhaps a gorilla or a bear. Before he can finish the thought, a massive orc-like creature charges at him, roaring ferociously. Filled with terror, our guy realizes the orc is getting closer. Just in time, a final notification appears stating that the synchronization is complete. He is now able to enter his subspace. Panicking, he screams in fear and activates the ability. Instantly, he finds himself transported into the subspace, a safe haven shielded from the outside world. He watches as the orc tries to enter, but an invisible boundary holds it back. For now, he is safe. The system confirms that, as the master of this subspace, our guy controls everything within it. No living being, object, or energy can enter or leave without his permission. Still in shock, he looks around at his new domain, trying to process the unbelievable turn of events. Our hero watches the orc from a distance, as it's still unable to enter, his mind racing with uncertainty. He wonders aloud whether creatures like that can really enter the system's space. At that moment, a notification appears confirming that his first tutorial is complete, and as a reward, he receives a mana stone. He reviews the information displayed before him. The facility he's in spans 5 stories, covering approximately 33,000 square meters. It boasts a shipping speed of 60 kilometers per hour, allows only one shipment at a time, and has a maximum shipment size of 2 meters. As he's processing this, the system alerts him that maintenance will begin in 2 minutes. It explains that in order to keep things operational, the mana stone must be used to power the facility. 1 mana stone, it claims, can keep the facility running for 24 hours. Kin raises a brow, baffled at how such a small object could possibly sustain such a large operation. The system calmly elaborates that the energy structure was altered during the transfer, enabling it to run entirely on mana stones. Still skeptical, Kim mutters that there's no way a tiny stone could hold that much power. But he also notes something else as the system seems to be evolving, growing smarter and more intuitive. Just then, a new warning flashes that the energy supply has been cut off. This poses a serious threat, especially to Pax Fresh, the subsystem responsible for storing and delivering all fresh and frozen foods. A chill runs down his spine. In the chaos of this new world, food is not just a necessity but a lifeline. He realizes that without power, the refrigerators and freezers holding valuable supplies are in danger. He asks the system again if it's truly capable of sustaining the entire facility with a single mana stone, and it reaffirms its claim. He then demands to know how more mana stones can be acquired. The system responds with a chilling answer. They must be obtained from beings not of this world. The term beings from another world leaves him in silent reflection. The meaning weighs on him as he stares once again at the orc, still unable to enter his domain. But he has no choice. He uses the mana stone to restore power to the facility, and the lights flicker back to life. He inquires whether he can resume searching for items, and the system affirms. He immediately begins scavenging for weapons and locates a camping hatchet, a kitchen knife, and a folding steel knife. Looking at them, he sighs, these tools aren't ideal for hand-to-hand combat. Throwing them might be his only viable strategy. Still, he worries. The stock is low, and the sharpness of these weapons may not be enough to pierce an orc's thick muscles. He reminds himself that he doesn't have to land a fatal blow right away. Even a significant injury could give him an edge. With that, he steels his nerves and decides to engage. He throws the weapons one by one. They hit, but barely make a mark. The knives are too light to be effective. Only the axe carries any real force. He starts to consider alternative tactics. What if he throws heavier items instead, something like a bowling ball, targeting the orc's joints for maximum effect. He pauses and asks Pax how many axes remain in stock. The system replies that there are 15. Confused, Kim Jong-guillaume expresses that it was the number earlier as well and questions Pax on why the number hasn't decreased. The system then explains that all items stored in subspace are converted into digital information. This means they can be duplicated indefinitely. While they can be damaged, they can never be fully used up. Realization hits him like a wave. He has access to an infinite supply of gear. A rare smile forms as he acknowledges that he'll tire out long before his weapons ever run dry. Then the system shares another crucial feature. Kim doesn't have to manually throw the items. He can command the system to ship them directly from the subspace. The only limitation is a 30-second cooldown between shipments, although that delay can be reduced through skill enhancements. Curious, our hero asks how to perform this enhancement. The system replies that it can be done using mana stones. To test the function, our guy focuses on one of the registered weapons and mentally commands it to ship. In an instant, a knife launches out at a shocking speed, slicing through the air, targeted at the orcs, and dealing fatal damage to it. Our guy's eyes widen in awe as the system confirms the knife was delivered at 60 kilometers per hour. It also adds that with upgrades, the speed can be pushed to 75 kilometers per hour. Any further enhancement will require additional skill improvements. Shaking off the amazement, our protagonist shifts his attention to gear. He quickly finds a pair of lightweight combat boots, tactical combat pants, and a detailed map of Seoul. Alongside these are 12 color marker tools he can use to plan his next move. He unrolls the map and begins marking locations. First his home, then Dabong District, Gangnam, Jongbu, and Yeoljiro. He mentally plots a path. The nearest location will be his first destination. He has people he must reach, people who are depending on him. It's a long journey, and walking the entire distance isn't practical. Fortunately, he finds a viable solution. Among the available items is a Dualton Kodiak Sports electric bicycle. Reliable, fast, and quiet. It's exactly what he needs to move through the city quickly and with minimal noise. Our protagonist takes a deep breath. His gaze hardens with resolve. To the people he loves, scattered across a city now crawling with danger, he sends a silent promise through the space between them. Hold on. Just a little longer. That the youngest is on his way. The story continues as our protagonist stands outside the subspace. 30 minutes have passed since he exited, and already he has taken down 12 orcs. As he steadies his breath, he reflects on the power he now commands. Two things dominate his thoughts. The first is the shipping ability, an overwhelming force despite its 30-second cooldown and limited range. Even with those restrictions, the combat advantages it offers are absurd, and knowing it can be upgraded with mana stones only increases its potential. This skill alone is enough to shift the balance in his favor. The second is the product retrieval ability, which automatically brings back dispatched items. It proves to be just as convenient as the shipping function. However, Kim quickly realizes that not all items are equal. Weapons like axes don't require retrieval, they can be summoned repeatedly without consequence. Mana stones, however, follow a different rule. They only appear after the enemy is dead, and they must be retrieved directly. Just then, a system notification flashes in his mind. He has collected another mana stone, increasing his total to 13. A satisfied grin crosses his face as he acknowledges the reality that he is literally collecting money. These stones represent power, fuel, and currency all at once, and each one brings him closer to something greater. He reflects that placing Pax into the subspace may have been his smartest decision so far. As long as the system remains operational, he cannot die while inside. The next logical step is to get his family in there too, to ensure their safety and preserve what matters most. Continuing forward, his mind lingers on a more troubling realization. Beyond common monsters like orcs, creatures so otherworldly they seem to ignore the rules of this reality. His thoughts are interrupted when his gaze sharpens. Up, a monstrous shape looms into view. A massive winged creature hovers above the ground, dwarfing even the largest orc he's encountered. One look is enough for Kim to know that this will not be a simple fight. In the distance, cries ring out, animalistic roars blended with something far more human. A scream pierces the air, urgent and terrified. Our silent savior bolts toward the source. The sound leads him to a man trapped beneath the shadow of the winged beast. Another survivor nearby tries to intervene but is completely ignored. Confused and alarmed, the man mutters that the creature seems to fixate only on Mr. Choi. The wyvern hovers with unnatural focus, singling out Mr. Choi as the weaker and more vulnerable prey. Kim arrives at the scene and quickly assesses the situation. The creature, drawn to the light glinting off his bicycle, shifts its gaze toward him. Kim activates the shipping system. He launches axes with deadly precision, and one of them slices through the air like a guided missile. The spinning blade slams directly into the beast's chest. A violent thud follows as the wyvern crashes to the ground, motionless. Nearby, a survivor gasps in disbelief. His wide eyes remain locked on the fallen monster. A wyvern felled by a single axe. It defies everything he thought possible. Then, seeing our silent savior calmly approach on a bicycle, awe overtakes him. The man immediately assumes this has to be a soldier, someone trained and deadly. The survivor rushes over, his voice shaking with gratitude. He thanks Kim profusely, insisting that he saved their lives. Still catching his breath, he remarks how rare it is to see someone with such composure in the middle of chaos. The image of a soldier in his mind grows stronger. But Kim corrects him. He's no soldier, just a PAX Fresh Center employee. He adds, without explaining further, that he understands how abilities work. The survivor pauses for a moment, clearly impressed. Even if Kim isn't military, it's obvious to him that these are not ordinary skills. With a tinge of envy, he admits that he doesn't have an ability of his own. He is something humble, something he jokingly refers to as the driver's ability. Still, he expresses genuine relief. Finding someone like Kim in this place feels like a miracle. He nods, saying that he understands abilities enough to recognize that Kim's are special. Once again, he offers his thanks. He then shifts the topic, bringing up others who might still be alive. Block C, he explains, had been filled with people because of the logistics center. But after the incident, most didn't survive. According to him, around 10 to 15 individuals are still alive, hiding in the underground terminal beneath Block E. He and a few others had been searching for a passable road when the building vanished. The man invites Kim to join them. He explains that the 4th basement floor is safe. No monsters have ever appeared there, and it's quiet. They even have snacks. At the very least, it's a place to rest without fear. Kim's attention sharpens at the mention of vehicles. If they're nearby, then maybe, just maybe, he can reach his family sooner. That alone makes the offer worth considering. He agrees to go with them, understanding the value of gathering more information. Still, he remains cautious. Trust is a luxury he can't afford in this world. Worst case, he can always retreat into the safety of his subspace. He also notes something critical. These people have no idea what kind of ability he truly possesses. That gives him a significant advantage. As long as he keeps his cards close, he controls the situation. As the group walks together through the dim, then they reach the other survivors, and Kim notices someone unfamiliar, a man standing over a dead orc, his expression grim and intense. But something about him feels off. A chill runs down Kim's spine as he studies the man's aura. It's cold, wrong, dangerous. In the meantime, the group reacts swiftly, confused and startled by how the orc managed to breach their supposed safe zone. They frantically check to ensure no one is hurt, but the shock leaves them visibly shaken. Within moments, the survivors come to a grim realization. The place they once believed to be secure no longer offers protection. Kim speaks up, his voice laced with concern. He explains that he had been told this area was safe from monster attacks. The mood shifts as the survivors turn their attention to our hero. They introduce him as the man who defeated the wyvern and saved young Sue and Bianco. Praise pours in from all sides, admiration clear in their expressions. A woman rushes up and hugs him, thanking him repeatedly, and with a teasing smile, asks if someone like him already has a girlfriend. As things settle, the survivors begin introducing themselves. One man steps forward, Lee Jean Mock, the center manager of the Dean Express terminal. With a firm nod of respect, he thanks Hero Kim for saving his people. He then extends an offer of food and shelter, explaining that the logistics center provided them with a large supply of goods. But the calm is short-lived. Another man interrupts the conversation with troubling news. The logistics center has vanished without a trace. That, he explains, is why they were chased by the wyvern. Shock ripples through the group. The building was enormous, a fortress of resources. Its disappearance seems impossible. Yet it's gone. Lee Jean Mock doesn't deny the claim. He admits they have no idea how it happened, but warns that things are changing rapidly. Danger is escalating, and staying put is no longer an option. He proposes digging through the tunnel as the only viable course of action. Another survivor agrees, and the group collectively decides to push forward. Lee Jean Mock turns to our protagonist, asking if he'll be joining them. He explains that many of the survivors have homes in other districts and need functioning vehicles to get there. They do have vehicles, but all roads are blocked. To the north, a golf course stands in their way. Containers obstruct the eastern path. The southern expressway has been reduced to rubble. The western tunnel remains the only possible route, but it's currently occupied by a group of wyverns. Their supplies from the logistics center once kept them going, but with that gone, they have no choice but to fight through the tunnel. Kim listens intently. Everything they've said only confirms what he already suspected. This group has been barely surviving. He speaks up, stating that he also needs a vehicle and plans to pass through the tunnel. If it's only wyverns guarding it, he says, that's manageable. He can handle it using his ability. Lee Ji-mak looks unsure but ultimately agrees. He knows Kim's power is no ordinary skill. Our hero, however, remains wary. Despite their friendliness, he reminds himself not to overlook the reality that these people have been desperate. It's likely they haven't shared details like the full extent of their food and water supplies. Survival breeds caution, and he doesn't blame them. Determined to stay ahead, our hero decides to scout the tunnel and the number of wyverns himself. Clearing the way will give him a chance to collect mana stones and upgrade his ability. Inside his subspace, he discovers several new potential skills like precise delivery, simultaneous delivery, and automatic delivery. After reviewing their benefits, he notes that 5 mana stones would reduce his cooldown to just 5 seconds. He also sees that simultaneous delivery would be perfect for dealing with large groups of enemies. Our Shadajir chooses to invest his stored mana stones. 10 go toward unlocking simultaneous delivery, and the remaining 5 toward reducing the cooldown time. The system acknowledges the changes. One of the survivors voices his concern about our silent savior going into battle alone. The man who was once chased by a wyvern brings this up, suggesting that it's too risky. Still, he admits that if anyone could do it, Kim could. The man expresses his faith, saying he trusts Kim to save them again. The sentiment surprises Kim. Trust isn't something he's used to, and he looks at the man with a puzzled expression. Curious about the man's own ability, our silent savior asks if he's seen any message windows or notifications. The man admits that he hasn't, not since his ability awakened. Still, he has a strong feeling about his dragging skill, something he jokingly refers to as a gut instinct. He promises to give it a try. As they prepare to move out, the man climbs onto the electric bicycle. Our hero watches with growing concern. Damaged vehicles clutter the road, making visibility poor, and the man struggles to navigate, though he manages, relying on his ability. Tension builds when the man spots a wyvern ahead. More begin to appear in the distance, and panic quickly spreads. The driver calls out to Kim, his voice shaky. He can't see clearly and doesn't know what to do. Kim urges him to keep driving. They're close to the tunnel, closer than he expected. But suddenly, the bicycle jerks to a halt. The driver is silent, frozen in fear. They are completely surrounded by wyverns blocking every direction, and there's no way out. Both of them realize escape is impossible. Not even our hero can help, not with his current ability. The driver mutters that it's over for them. Kim clenches his fists, his mind made up. There's no point in holding back anymore. This is beyond what anyone else can handle. He makes the call. He uses 10 mana stones to activate simultaneous delivery and the remaining 5 to reduce his cooldown. The system confirms the upgrade. Our silent savior activates his ability. In an instant, a flash of white light engulfs the area. Moments later, silence falls. The wyverns lie dead, scattered across the ground. Our silent savior stands at the center of the destruction. Completely unharmed, the driver stares at the aftermath, speechless, unable to comprehend what he's just witnessed. Axes spin through the air in a violent blur. The driver narrows his eyes, beginning to understand a disturbing truth that these weapons aren't coming from the physical world around him. They originate from another dimension. This realization settles in just as the scene shifts to our hero, now within his subspace. Inside this secluded realm, our hero acts quickly. He activates 1 mana stone, lowering his skill cooldown to 25 seconds. A second stone reduces it further to 20. A third brings it down to 15. With the final stone, the cooldown reaches its minimum of 5 seconds. The system informs him that any further reductions will require a level up of his subspace. He notes this but doesn't linger. There's work to do. Back outside, he then warns Yongsu to stay close for his safety. Yongsu agrees, but his eyes widen as something catches his attention. Behind him, the logistics center stands clear and unmistakable. Its reappearance is both startling and deeply unsettling. Suddenly, the wyverns launch another attack. Without hesitation, our hero hurls axes at the incoming monsters. Yong-soo, still reeling, stares in disbelief. To him, it looks like the logistics center itself is throwing the weapons. Nothing makes sense, but one thing becomes clear. This man is not someone who struggles with monsters. If he wants to get through the tunnel, he absolutely can. Yong-soo's face darkens. The gap between them is staggering, and that our hero doesn't need a vehicle. His ability alone is enough. A flicker of jealousy rises in Yong-soo's chest. He realizes that the other could reach his family far more quickly than he ever could. Still shaken, Yong-soo remarks that the wyverns seem to be pulling back. Maybe they're smarter than they look. Meanwhile, our hero considers upgrading his precision delivery skill, but is disappointed to find he's short on mana stones. Curious, Yong-soo asks about the glowing blue stones. He explains that they're mana stones, items that enhance his ability. He asks if this is Yong-soo's first time seeing one. Yong-soo nods, intrigued, and says he'd like to try it out someday. Our hero then questions why Yong-soo didn't use the mana stones they extracted from the orc's corpse. He adds that not all abilities can be upgraded the same way. Yong-soo looks at him wide-eyed. The sheer scale of the man's power sinks in. He comments that someone like this could tear through the tunnel without breaking a sweat. Quietly, the man reflects. He hadn't planned to reveal this much. His original strategy was simple: scout the tunnel, then break through discreetly. Yong-soo, perhaps sensing this hesitation, apologizes for being a burden. Our hero reassures him. Truthfully, he couldn't have done it all on his own. They decide to head back, wary of another possible wyvern attack. As they walk, Yong-soo asks where our hero plans to go next. He also wonders whether he needs a vehicle. He replies that he's heading to Gangnam, then to Wonbu. Yong-soo perks up. He's going toward Indiakwon. A hopeful tone slips into his voice as he asks if he can join him. The request catches our hero off guard. Yong-soo reflects on his limits. Even if he manages to cross the tunnel, there's no guarantee of a safe journey home. His driving ability is strong, but he's powerless against monsters. He considers the offer, adding that Yong-soo could handle the driving, which would allow him to conceal his abilities. It's a practical solution. After a moment of thought, he agrees. Yong-soo will drive while he handles the tunnel. He makes it clear that he must clear it alone. Others would only get in the way, and his power needs to remain a secret. Yong-soo promises to gain the group's cooperation. Once they return to the hideout, he quickly gathers everyone and announces that our hero will break through the tunnel on his own. They're to stay behind until it's safe. However, our hero is stunned. He never expected Yong-soo to expose him like this, especially after asking for discretion. The group reacts in waves. Some murmur questions about what kind of power he must have, wondering how he plans to manage the tunnel alone. One survivor urges caution. Another accuses him of raising suspicions. A third simply says they have no choice but to go along with the plan. Then Lee Jin-mak steps forward, calm as ever. He tells our hero that he won't ask about his power. They'll wait as instructed. He thanks him for taking on such a dangerous task for the group's sake. Just as he prepares to leave, Lee Jin-mak stops him again, this time to offer supplies. The group has scraped together food for the journey. The gesture stuns our hero. He insists he acted for his own reasons and that the supplies are too generous. These were probably meant for their families. He tries to return them, but Lee Jin-mak doesn't back down. He tells him to accept the supplies. Sharing them wasn't easy, but they all believe he has family too. Every family matters. Then Jin-mak reveals a small stash of alcohol. It's not much, but he says that's probably for the best. He pours everyone a small drink and raises his glass, a toast for his safe return and the safety of all their loved ones. The moment touches our hero deeply. For the first time in a long while, he feels genuinely connected to others. As the group shares this rare moment of warmth, the scene shifts. He looks forward. The tunnel lies ahead, wide open, scared by destruction. The atmosphere changes. The group gasps at the sight. Without turning back, he then mounts his electric bike. In a solemn voice, he says he will be back. Riding through the dimly lit tunnel, the tension in the air crackles around him. The roar of wings echoes off the walls as a pack of wyverns emerges from the shadows, surrounding the vehicle, and the story shifts into a memory from before the chaos. In this flashback, his sisters bicker playfully, their voices overlapping in a rhythm that feels all too familiar. He recalls his father, who once admitted with a wistful smile that, as an only child, he had always envied the kind of bond his children shared. Reflecting on that moment, he silently acknowledges the truth in his father's words. The bond between siblings is rare, fragile, and deep down, something sacred. The scene shifts to Lee Jin-mak, drunk and heavy with sorrow, speaking openly about how much he misses his son. His voice is slurred, his eyes glassy with unshed tears. The others scold him, their words laced with a mixture of concern and exhaustion, trying to anchor him to the present. But the weight of his grief refuses to lift, lingering in the air like a storm that will not pass. Outside, our hero slips away into the night, muttering that he needs some fresh air. Alone, he walks deeper into the darkness until Yong-soo appears, breaking the silence with a light remark about him being awake. He responds quietly, admitting he cannot sleep. Yong-soo explains that he has kept himself busy. He has loaded the remaining vehicles with goods from the logistics center, making sure to fill them only halfway to keep the weight manageable. Even so, the supplies should more than sustain them on their journey. All 15 vehicles are packed, and with a glance toward Yong-soo, he asks that this remain between them. Yong-soo gives a simple nod. Yong-soo, in that moment, silently marvels at the selflessness before him. It is not often one meets someone who gives so freely, without expecting anything in return. Back inside the tunnel, our hero turns his attention inward, measuring the limits of his abilities. A question stirs in his mind whether it might be possible to place people into his subspace. He consults Pax, the AI, who informs him that such a feat is currently beyond his level. However, once he reaches level 2, he will be able to accommodate up to 20 people. To get there, he must gather 32 more mana stones. His eyes scan the battlefield. Roughly 40 wyverns remain in the tunnel, though some have already fled, making it uncertain whether he can collect enough mana stones to level up. Without the precision delivery upgrade, catching as many as he had would have been impossible. Yet he knows that if he is to protect his family and move them safely through this broken world, then leveling up is not optional, it is vital. Suddenly he feels it. A presence unlike the rest. A wyvern larger, heavier, far more imposing. This one is different. He sharpens his focus, bracing for whatever comes next. Meanwhile, the group left behind grows increasingly uneasy. Their whispered concerns swirl around the absence of their quiet protector. Then, just as the tension nears its peak, he returns. Relief rushes through them. Applause breaks out, mingling with smiles and soft laughter. Hope returns to tired faces. He walks toward them with calm assurance. He thanks them for their efforts and expresses a quiet wish that they all make it home safely. Turning to Lee Jin-mak, he offers his gratitude. Lee Jin-mak meets the moment with equal sincerity, wishing our hero a safe journey to reunite with his loved ones. Meanwhile, before departing, he mentions that if trouble arises along the road, they should check the cargo hold. He has left something for them there. Not a grand gesture, but a small gift to help them keep going. He urges them to move quickly, to reach their families before the world becomes even more unforgiving. With that, he climbs into the vehicle and drives off. As the vehicle hums down the fractured road, our hero cannot shake the sense that something is wrong. The wyvern he sensed earlier felt different, larger, more intelligent, possibly even older. Perhaps it was a leader or an evolved form of the species. The thought lingers like a whisper, a warning that something important might have slipped by unnoticed. A distant sound cuts through his thoughts. Up ahead, the road is a battlefield littered with corpses, broken down vehicles, and monstrous remains. Chaos reigns in every direction. There is no going back, only forward. Beside him, Yong-soo takes in the sight with growing concern. He notes that the road ahead is no longer safe. Twisted barbed wire coils across the asphalt like a snare. It looks like a barricade, something the military might have set up to contain whatever lurks beyond. That in itself is a warning enough. As the vehicle slows, Yong-soo spots something on the bridge in the distance. His eyes widen as the shapes of monsters come into view at the far end. So this is what the barricade was holding back. Without missing a beat, he announces that they must turn around. But our hero stops him. Rather than retreat, he asks if it is possible to bypass the barricade by moving onto the sidewalk. Yong-soo evaluates the terrain and agrees that they can manage it. No better choices remain, and with that they push forward, onward through a world that refuses to stop testing them. The story presses forward as more monsters begin to gather in the distance. A surge of panic rises in Yong-soo's chest, threatening to overtake him, but he forces himself to stay calm. His voice tight, he turns to his companion and asks if he truly plans to continue on this path, to which he affirms the decision without hesitation, adding that there is no reason to retreat now. Yong-soo pauses, momentarily stunned, caught between fear and disbelief. But trust in our hero's judgment anchors him. He gives a small nod and resumes driving forward, the wheels pulling him closer to the growing threat. As they advance, our hero turns toward Yong-soo and brings up a certain game from the past, a title they both know well, one where 3 different races waged endless war. Recognition sparks instantly in Yong-soo's eyes. Our hero continues, describing a custom mode from that very game. In it, players relied on limited units and strategic use of defensive terrain to survive relentless waves of enemies. The comparison draws a sharp connection to their current reality. They are surrounded, vastly outnumbered, and outgunned. Like in that game, survival now depends on whatever resources and ingenuity they can muster. He instructs Yong-soo to reverse the vehicle to a specific location etched in his memory. Once properly positioned, he expends 10 mana stones to unlock a new function called auto-ship. With the stones remaining, he boosts the shipping speed to a staggering 100 km per hour. The system pulses with energy in response. Without delay, he activates his ability. A massive double-door refrigerator materializes beside him with a sudden flash of light. Gleaming white and heavy, it launches through the air with a forceful whoosh, cutting a clean path toward the oncoming horde of mutated dogs. The impact is explosive. One creature is hurled backward, its body limp and broken, while others are crushed outright beneath the weight of the appliance. Our hero watches the carnage unfold and collects 12 mana stones from the fallen. A flicker of satisfaction crosses his face. This is what he has been waiting for. He assesses the effectiveness of his evolving arsenal. While his earlier ability allowed him to hurl axes at high speeds with some auto-targeting, it lacked the raw force and area control he needs now. Precision delivery only adjusts the direction of his throws slightly. It doesn't guarantee hits. Against these mutated beasts, who sprint with terrifying speed and do not flinch when their kin fall, the axes are no longer sufficient. But the refrigerator is different. Massive and destructive, it flattens enemies with even the slightest contact, and now with auto-ship active, he can deploy them rapidly and with greater ease. He instructs packs to keep the system running. Yong-soo watches the scene in disbelief as another refrigerator soars across the battlefield, identical to the last. A deep confusion settles over him. He cannot make sense of how the same refrigerator is being launched again and again. Then realization dawns slowly. These are not the same items being reused. They are entirely new units, pristine and untouched, pulled from what seems to be an endless supply. The man catches the look on Yong-soo's face and, picking up on his thoughts, casually remarks that he could go for something to eat. That seemingly unrelated comment leads Yong-soo to a deeper question about the stockpile. If it's truly infinite, our hero senses the unspoken doubt and clarifies. He is not magically recycling items. The axes are simply being retrieved from the ground to keep the battlefield clear and safe. As for the rest, yes, the stock appears to be unlimited. With the mystery cleared up, he asks what Yong-soo wants. After only a brief hesitation, Yong-soo sheepishly admits that he could use a Coke Zero and a donut. He adds with a bit of embarrassment that although he doesn't fully understand how the ability works, he still wants to share in the rewards. A smile plays on our hero's lips, his voice full of warmth. He thanks Yong-soo for his honesty and reveals something more. Yong-soo glances at the navigation and confirms their position. They are just about an hour from his place. His words carry hope, the kind that dares to imagine survival. He expresses a wish for everyone to make it through safely, especially his companion. But our hero falters. A subtle shadow crosses his face as he admits he is not ready to face his family just yet. The blood, the dirt, the exhaustion, it clings to him like armor he no longer wants. He suggests finding some fresh clothes, anything clean, just enough to look human again, before going home. Yong-soo expresses gratitude but wonders aloud whether he will really have what he needs. In response, he simply provides what Yong-soo requested earlier without hesitation. In the same breath, he reassures him that most of their pressing problems have now been handled. Soon, they will leave this nightmare behind. With that reassurance hanging in the air, Yong-soo starts the vehicle once more. The engine rumbles to life, and they begin moving forward. But after only a short while, our hero groans, asking him to slow down. His face pales as motion sickness begins to churn in his stomach. Yong-soo casts a glance over and responds with a shrug that it will only take about 20 minutes. Despite the discomfort, he keeps pressing forward, guiding the vehicle down a narrow, twisting road. Every second matters now. They are close, and the urgency demands speed, not comfort. Then, without warning, Yong-soo slams on the brakes. The vehicle skids with a sharp screech and comes to an abrupt halt. He sits up straighter in his seat, eyes wide, and announces that they have arrived at their destination. The scene shifts, revealing a new location. Yong-soo steps cautiously through the area, his eyes scanning the landscape. Dilapidated buildings surround them, their structures so aged and broken they resemble little more than hollow shells of what once stood. He observes the eerie quiet and notes a crucial detail. There are no corpses here, only the crumbling remains of civilization. All he has to do now is open the door. Our hero watches silently, absorbing Yong-soo's desperation and the way he clings to the fragile hope that his loved ones are still alive. He recalls how fiercely Yong-soo pressed the accelerator, covering what should have been an hour-long journey in less than 20 minutes. That urgency came from raw fear, the kind of fear that refuses to entertain the worst possibilities. He understands, if the worst has happened, if what waits behind that door is a cold corpse instead of a living smile, Yong-soo won't be able to bring himself to open it. He would freeze, unable to face the truth. For a moment, he thinks that maybe it shouldn't be Yong-soo who opens the door. Perhaps someone else should press the doorbell for him. The thought lingers, and then he steps forward, deciding that he will be the one. He approaches with quiet resolve. No one wants to confirm the death of a loved one. Even when the odds of survival are nearly non-existent, that final confirmation feels too cruel, too final. He reaches for the doorbell, draws in a breath, and presses it. Moments later, the door swings open. Standing in the doorway are Yong-soo's family, their faces frozen in disbelief. The tension shatters in an overwhelming wave of emotion as they recognize him. Relief overtakes their expressions. Tears come freely. They are safe. They are alive. Yong-soo moves forward, nearly crumbling under the weight of his relief. His wife runs into his arms. He asks how she knew to open the door, and she explains that she heard something, a faint sound that prompted her to peek through the peephole. That small sound was enough to bring them back together. He embraces his family, the moment heavy with gratitude. His child clings to him tightly, voice trembling and laced with emotion. She blurts out words of frustration, saying she hates him, overwhelmed by fear and confusion. Yong-soo's wife eventually turns to notice the unfamiliar figure standing behind her husband. Curiosity fills her expression as she tries to identify the stranger. But our hero falters. His vision starts to blur, exhaustion surging through his limbs. He feels his body give way, his thoughts growing dim and fragmented. He knows he cannot fall asleep here, not like this. As his eyes close and consciousness slips away, he begins to dream. In this dream, he stands beside his father at a funeral. Within that dream, his father's voice echoes, imparting a lesson. Love, in its purest form, means giving without expecting. It means being grateful even in farewells. He takes in the words, letting them settle in the quiet corners of his heart. The memory shifts. Now he sees his sisters. He remembers childish antics, small arguments, and laughter-filled moments. One scene lingers, his sister playfully jabbing him as they laugh, their father watching fondly. His father's voice cuts through again, gently stating that one day they will both realize how truly precious family is. The dream transforms once more. Now he returns to middle school, bullied and frightened. He is rescued by an older student who later puts him through rigorous training, teaching him how to defend himself. From fear grows strength. The memory then transitions. His sister has just been accepted into nursing school. A message flashes on a screen, announcing her success. Pride fills the scene, warm and bittersweet. Suddenly, another memory rises to the surface. His father tells him it is time. The moment has come. Our hero sees himself preparing to leave home, ready to begin his military service. His family surrounds him, offering words of hope and urging him to be safe, to stay unhurt. He lingers on that final glance back at his family, the last look filled with both love and fear. He begins to stir, his mind struggling to pull him back into the present. Pain pulses through him as his consciousness claws its way out of sleep. His eyes flutter open. Disoriented and still groggy, he sits up. Nothing looks familiar. A creeping panic rises in his chest. Had he fainted, his last memory is just a haze. He instinctively reaches into his subspace, fingers closing around an axe, ready to defend himself if needed. But then a voice cuts through the fog. He looks up. Yong-soo's wife and child stand before him, their eyes wide, watching him closely. Yong-soo's wife gently asks if he is all right, clearly concerned after he suddenly collapsed and fell asleep. She explains that she chose not to wake him because he seemed to be resting so peacefully. Now awake, Our hero quickly hides his axe and assures her that he is fine. He wonders how long he has been unconscious. She tells him it's been about 3 hours. Her voice softens as she adds that her husband has already told her everything. With deep sincerity, she thanks him for bringing her husband back safely. Every word she speaks radiates gratitude. Our hero, ever modest, replies that it wasn't a one-sided effort. He too received much support from Mr. Yong-soo during the journey. He does not accept the praise solely for himself. Still worried for his well-being, Yong-soo's wife insists he must be starving. She encourages him to eat before they continue any further conversation. She mentions that her husband had also refused to eat without him being awake, wanting them all to share the meal. Our hero agrees with a nod. Soon he is led to the table and served a warm, fragrant dish. To his surprise, it is conger eel stew. She admits it's the best she could manage with the ingredients she had on hand. He feels genuinely touched. He notes that right now there is no meal more luxurious than this. He thanks her sincerely and begins to eat. Each bite sends flavors bursting across his tongue. The sweet and oily tang of stir-fried kimchi fuses beautifully with the clean, savory essence of the mackerel. Warmth spreads through his chest, not just from the stew itself, but from the comfort and familiarity it brings. The dish feels like a distant memory, finding its way back to him. When he finishes, he sits quietly for a moment, softly murmuring to himself that he truly ate well. It has been a long time since he had a meal like this, perhaps not since before the apocalypse or even before he left the military. He admits with quiet reverence that the flavor even rivals his mother's kimchi stew. It is a compliment he rarely, if ever, grants. Not long after, Yong-soo speaks up and offers to drive our hero to Gangnam, which he listens to but clarifies that Gangnam is not his final destination. He still needs to reach Jongbu, and for that he will need to hold on to the car a bit longer. Yong-soo understands but proposes a condition. He suggests they step outside to discuss it in more detail. Once outside, Yong-soo lays out his plan. They will travel together in the truck to Gangnam, and afterward, he will use the electric bicycle to return. His only request is that our hero hands him the bicycle when the time comes. He admits the bike may not seem like much, but it is enough to help him get to Gangnam swiftly. Our hero agrees, but he remains puzzled. He wonders silently why someone would take such a risk just to help him. He does not yet fully understand Yong-soo's reasoning. Sensing his confusion, Yong-soo explains. He is confident in his combat skills and believes he can outrun most monsters if necessary. Then, flipping the question, he points out that our hero is helping him too. He answers for him that if it weren't for him, he would have died in that tunnel. There is no doubt in his mind that without that help, he wouldn't have made it out. This is his way of repaying the debt. He emphasizes that they are both trapped in the same brutal world and that by supporting one another, they'd only increase their chances of survival. He admits that perhaps he sounds presumptuous, but he insists that he is not reckless. He is helping not because he wishes to die, but because he believes in settling what he owes. Our hero nods, understanding finally settling in. In return, he decides to share something of his own. Since Yong-soo has opened up about his abilities, it is only fair to do the same. He reveals that his special ability is called subspace. It is a secure dimension where nothing can enter without his permission. As long as he maintains control, he can even duplicate the items stored within it. Yong-soo listens intently and nods in acknowledgement. He then adds a condition of his own that if Yong-soo wants to help him, then he must stay by his side until his business in Jeonbu is finished. He explains that once his subspace levels up further, he will be able to bring others inside with him. He has recently leveled up his ability after defeating the monster dogs. If Yong-soo continues to support him, he promises to protect his family as well. Yong-soo agrees without hesitation. He says he will bring his wife and daughter along and that they should leave immediately. Now within his subspace, our hero uses 100 mana stones to upgrade the ability to level 2. He accepts the changes and makes a mental note to explore the updates later. Then, without warning, he senses an external presence trying to enter subspace. He grants permission, allowing Yong-soo, his wife, and daughter to come in. The three step inside and are instantly overwhelmed by the vast, surreal space that surrounds them. Our hero addresses them calmly, letting them know that if they need anything, they can simply speak to Pax, the AI assistant of this dimension. Everything within this space is infinite. He tells Yong-soo to get some rest while he checks his new functions. He also informs them that they will depart in 30 minutes. Yong-soo's wife offers to prepare some snacks for the journey. Our hero turns his attention inward, now fully focused on examining the capabilities granted by the level up. He now possesses 2 new features, Subspace Lab and simultaneous shipping. Our hero reflects on the original version of his subspace ability, on how, at first, it's simple, elegant, and even. He can store an object right in front of him, access it whenever he wants, and block anything from entering unless he allows it. Straightforward, efficient. But then, everything changes as the shift begins the moment he stores an entire logistics center inside subspace. That one daring act triggers something unexpected. The subspace system upgrades on the spot. A new operating system boots up, fully compatible with the subspace's core framework. Suddenly, Pax's A emerges with the Awakening System's OS. The result is explosive. A brand new ability is unlocked as a shipment function. Now he could launch any stored item at a velocity of 100 kilometers per hour. It's absurd, overpowered, and completely unplanned. He hadn't expected any new perks from leveling up. But clearly that's exactly what happens, and then a system alert pops up, confirming that the subspace has officially leveled up. The core function remains that he can store a single physical object in front of him. But there's more. A new feature rolls in as the Subspace Lab. This changes everything. With it, he can combine items, split them apart, even transform them. The possibilities race through his mind like wildfire. Considering the kind of hybrid items he could create with this feature, the thought is thrilling. But then comes the catch. Each experiment costs 50 mana stones. That steep price tag cools his enthusiasm. He shelves the idea for now, deciding it's better to test that ability later. For the moment, all he confirms is that object storage remains intact and safe. A flash of memory strikes him. He recalls the time he stored the Pax's FC inside subspace. The sheer scale of it almost made him question his own sanity. Storing something that massive didn't feel possible, so now he wonders as he questions what about the Earth itself, which he then tries. The subspace rejects the request instantly. No surprise, he laughs at the absurdity of it. Storing the Earth would be a broken ability. Way too overpowered. Just then, Yong-Soo arrives with a report. He's scouted the path to gain them, and the main road appears to be the best route forward. Our hero agrees without hesitation, but curiosity tugs at him. He asks Yong-Soo why he's not with his daughter. Yong-Soo smiles and explains that she fell asleep after playing. The subspace made her feel safe. Then his expression shifts, turning serious. He thanks our hero with genuine sincerity, says he's just as grateful to him as he is to Yong-Soo himself. From now on he's all in. He'll help in any way he can. The atmosphere thickens as Yong-Soo clarifies what he brings to the table. Driving, that's his talent. When it comes to raw speed, he has no equal. Our hero smirks and jokingly warns him to ease up on the gas pedal. But Yong-Soo shakes his head. This is how he repays the favor with speed. Moments later, they're flying down a rugged road at terrifying velocity. The vehicle roars across the terrain like a rocket. The road is practically deserted. No civilians, no monsters, just silence. Yong-Soo offers an explanation that the area was once a Bronze Age archaeological site. It was never developed or inhabited. The ground might be uneven, but there are no threats here. No shady characters lurking. No predators in the shadows, but that peace doesn't last. Yong-Soo's eyes lock on something ahead. A barricade. Military style, complete with spike strips. He wonders aloud if the military is still operational in this region. But our hero sees through it immediately. These aren't soldiers, just looters in borrowed armor, playing dress-up with military gear. He's certain they've been tracking them for a while. Dodging them now is no longer an option. Without hesitation, he opens a miniature portal beneath the steering wheel and urges Yong-Soo to hide inside. Yong-Soo hesitates, his concern visible. But our hero assures him that if these people wanted to kill them, they would already open fire. He notes that only 3 figures are visible, a small crew. One of the imposters sneers, mocking the driver's skills. They bark out an order, demanding everyone exit the vehicle and reveal the cargo. Their eyes go wide when they see a mountain of supplies, food stacked higher than they ever imagined. They gawk, asking where it all came from. Calmly, our hero responds that it's from a logistics center. That answer flips a switch. One of the thugs mutters that it's time, take him. A heady punch crashes into our hero's stomach, dropping him to his knees. Another attacker yanks a rough cloth sack over his head. Blackness swallows everything. When the world returns, he's inside a dimly lit room. Disoriented, dizzy. They move fast to assess him. He looks down and freezes. There's a soldier's corpse lying beside him. Then the leader of the group sitting in front of him explains that he had gotten enough information from the guys, and then questions that. Rumor has it he had access to food. They want to confirm that, and the source, our hero, nods, explaining that the food came from the Gunpo Logistics Center. The man responds, sounding both impressed and disappointed. They should have gone after that place first. At this moment, our hero questions where he was, and the man answers in the room, introducing the place as the Joint Command Communications Headquarters. Suddenly, the air vibrates with a screech deep, guttural, and inhuman. A wyvern looms in the distance. Massive. Dangerous. The tension spikes instantly. The leader of the group mentions the creature's identity, says it nearly killed him. His powers barely left a scratch. He points out another soldier, explaining that he watched another soldier die, head crushed into a wall, just for trying to shoot it. If magic is useless, then bullets mean nothing. He reveals that they've been trying to recruit survivors, build a force to fight these monsters. But the military couldn't handle the growing threat, so he took command, created his own system. That's why he hasn't killed our hero. Not yet. He sees value in him. He knows things that could keep them alive. And frankly, the man admits he was starving. Without help, they'd all be dead already. He offers a twisted kind of alliance. Weapons, yes. Food, no. That's where our hero comes in. They'll go back to the logistics center together. No need for fear, the man claims. If our hero joins their so-called family, they'll offer protection in return. Then clarity hits. This place is perfect for subspace storage. No hesitation, no second thoughts. He gives the order to Pax, store the Joint Command Communications Headquarters. The scene kicks off with a thunderous crash. In a blink, an enormous building disappears into thin air. The enemy leader freezes, eyes wide with disbelief as he frantically scans the area. He bellows in confusion, demanding to know where the building went. But the one responsible for this chaos, our hero, takes a step back, staggering slightly as a wave of dizziness hits him, the same kind of disorientation he felt when he stored the Pax. That sensation is a red flag. His instincts scream that danger is approaching fast. Without wasting a second, he severs the connection. High above, wyverns explode into the sky, drawn by the echoing noise of the vanished structure. Things spiral out of control as grotesque, razor-toothed beasts swarm the area. Chaos erupts. Panic takes hold. The enemy leader, one of the few left from the now-vanished base, cries out in alarm, ordering his comrades to prioritize the smaller creatures first. His voice cracks with fear. Doubt lingers in his tone. He wonders if their bullets will even scratch these monstrosities. But he clings to hope, believing his ability might turn the tide. His voice breaks through the panic, accusing the rest of betrayal. A hulking wyvern plummets from the sky. Its massive form bears down on them with terrifying speed. Reacting instantly, our hero activates his power, grabs a weak soldier, and yanks him into the subspace. A system prompt flashes in front of him, requesting access confirmation. He agrees. The dizziness returns, a reminder of the system's strain. But it's already in motion. There's no turning back. That storing an entire military base might have triggered unpredictable side effects. He can't afford to ignore the risks. Out of nowhere, the enemy leader charges forward. Each strike lands with bone-rattling force. The air shudders under the sheer power of his blows. A wild grin spreads across his face. He declares a level up and shouts that he's ready to crush them all. However, it's fatal as the wyvern chews his head off. Meanwhile, in the aftermath of the clash, Yong-Soo rushes up to our protagonist inside the subspace, breathless and shaken. He asks if things are under control and points to the wounded man now lying on the ground. Our hero replies that the man looks like a military man, and judging by the marks on his body, he's been tortured. Together, they lay him down and begin checking for injuries. Yong-Soo examines him quickly, confirming there's no heady bleeding. Yong-Soo glances back at the newly arrived structure. He stares, stunned. It's massive. He remarks that from a distance it looks like a full-blown military base. The main character nods, admitting that he brought it in, though he hadn't realized how enormous it truly was. Memory flickers during the original transport, and he was blindfolded. He never had a proper look at it. Now seeing it fully, he knows he has to explore it properly. He tells Yong-Soo to stay behind and watch over the injured soldier. He promises to be quick. As he races toward the colossal building, thoughts tumble through his mind. A military base means an abundance of resources. Guns, ammo, explosives, gas masks, maybe even tanks. In a world ruled by chaos and monsters, this place is a game changer. But he also knows it won't be as seamless as operating the logistics center. Pax handled all the logistics before. This base is something else entirely. As he starts listing the sections of the facility, guns are secured in the armory. Explosives and ammunition are locked in the magazine. Everything must be retrieved manually. That adds another layer of difficulty. He never got to gauge the full size of this place during the initial storage. Now, walking through its vast halls, the scale overwhelms him. It's even larger than the logistics hub. A soft whirring sound alerts him. A drone from Pax floats silently. The machine scans the area and delivers its report. Sector 2 has been added to the system. That means it now functions like Sector 1, just like the warehouse. He halts, eyes narrowing. The implications hit him hard. The drone continues. Items stored in Sector 2 will behave identically to those in Sector 1. That can only mean one thing. He asks Pax for confirmation, questioning if it includes duplication and if the system can now replicate weapons and ammo. Pax confirms. The replication process is already in progress, but it's still early. Completion stands at 0.81%. He pushes for an estimate, but Pax hesitates. Too many variables, a prioritization is possible. He wastes no time mentioning rifles, ammo, grenades, vehicles, fuel, all get top priority. Pax locks the request. It also offers to restrict ordering permissions to prevent misuse, as requested by our hero nods, slightly wary of the rescued soldier's intentions. Meanwhile, outside the subspace, the battle rages on. The screeches of wyverns echo across the landscape. He watches, silently wishing there was a way to resolve this without more bloodshed. But he knows better. The monster numbers are too overwhelming. Diplomacy is a dead language now. The only option left is to fight. He prepares quickly. A rifle materializes from the subspace. He tosses several massive ammo boxes toward Yong-Su, each one crammed with tens of thousands of rounds. He advises Yong-Su to ditch the weapon if it jams. Time is a luxury they no longer have. Yong-Su flashes a confident smirk. No words, just action. He raises the rifle and opens fire. The weapon kicks hard in his hands, but he doesn't flinch. Bullets scream through the air, cutting down wyverns mid-flight. One by one, the creatures crash to the ground, their roars silenced. The recoil is brutal. Firing non-stop takes everything he's got, but he doesn't stop. They hold their position. The tide begins to shift. For a moment, it feels like they might just survive. Watching closely, our protagonist nods in grim approval. But a chill crawls down his spine. Something's wrong. He scans the sky. The massive wyvern from earlier is nowhere to be found. He senses the enemies are lurking, biding their time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Determined to flush them out, he deploys a remote-controlled toy car as bait. Yong-Su raises an eyebrow, clearly skeptical about the strategy as he makes it more believable by adding a dummy body. There's a plan in motion. Suddenly, a shadow swoops in. The massive wyvern bursts from its hiding spot. In a single strike, it obliterates the decoy the trap works. The creature was lying in wait. Without hesitation, the commander goes out, and Yong-Su opens fire, unloading a barrage of bullets into the airborne monster. Round after round tears through the air, slamming into the beast, but it barely reacts. The wyvern lets out a thunderous roar, more irritated than injured. Yong-Su stares in disbelief. The bullets should do damage. Instead, the beast remains mostly unscathed, as if cloaked in armor. The young man steps in, nodding in agreement. Something is definitely off. He recalls hearing a thug once talk about attacks being blocked rather than deflected. This might be the same thing. He proposes a little experiment to see whether their firepower can break through the wyvern's defenses. With a grin, he begins hurling grenades. One after another, explosions light up the sky, blasting the wyvern midair. Smoke and fire swirl as chunks of the creature's tough hide begin to peel away. And yet, it stays airborne. He watches in astonishment. How is this thing still alive? Wondering what kind of monster can survive this kind of punishment. As the dust begins to clear, the wyvern backs away. Not because of the damage. It's withdrawing with intent. Yong-Su notices it too, pointing out that the enemy isn't fleeing, just repositioning. The battle isn't over. They prepare to move out, but hesitation lingers. Traveling through the night feels risky. However, they journey as he reminisces on the incident with the wyvern, stating that even with all the firepower at their disposal, the wyvern barely flinched. What kind of weapon would it take to bring down? Something even stronger? The thoughts race. The danger of bigger explosions isn't lost on them. The real killer in grenades is the shrapnel, not the blast. More powerful bombs could wipe out entire areas, risking innocent lives. They need weapons that strike with surgical precision, not widespread destruction. Inside the subspace, the young man checks his mana stone count. 314. That wyvern was loaded. With that much power, he can afford some serious upgrades. He enhances the launch speed to 150 kilometers / cuts the launch prep time to a single second, expands the number of items he can fire at once to 4, and stretches the launch range to 50 meters. The upgrades cost a lot, but the power gain is undeniable. Something new catches his eye, the Pocket Dimension Lab. Curious, he decides to explore. He tells Yang-Su to stop the car, but Yang-Su suggests he stay back while his companion returns in the subspace and continues their journey. The idea works. He explores while they travel. Inside the lab, the space seems unimpressive at first, but Pax explains its functions. 2 main features: combine and separate. Combine merges items, separate breaks them into base components. An idea hits. Questioning if he registers grenades with their pins already pulled, Pax confirms it's safe. Everything in the subspace is digital. No risk of an accidental explosion. He starts uploading grenades. Then his mind shifts to modifications. If he could combine rifles with dual magazines to cut reload time, the possibilities multiply. Meanwhile, Yang-Su drives deeper into the night. Up ahead, the road is blocked. A wall of stacked cars looms across their path. It doesn't look like a natural formation. It feels deliberate, like someone or something made it to keep others out. Then, without warning, the young man appears beside Yang-Su. Calm and focused, he assures him they won't need to turn back. Not this time, not with what he just built. He reaches into the subspace and summons a weapon. With practiced precision, he launches it forward. A deafening impact follows. The makeshift wall erupts outward, cars flying in all directions. The path is clear. Yang-Su stares in amazement. What kind of weapon was that, realizing it's a stack of 20-kilogram weights? Launched at high speed, they act like a battery ram, the kind of force that gets the job done without the risk of collateral damage. 2 men stand in stunned silence, eyes locked on the crumbled barricade of cars before them. One mutters that the wall shouldn't have fallen so easily, while the other points ahead, wide-eyed at the mysterious figure emerging through the settling dust. Calm, composed, and unmistakably confident, the man looks forward, casually greeting the pair, and asks if Nurse Kim Joyeon is nearby. The scene suddenly shifts, diving into the past. Joyeon sits hunched over a pile of textbooks, eyes locked in focus. Her younger siblings gather around, puzzled by her sudden studious behavior. They tease her, wondering if she's sick or if they need to call Mom. Joyeon doesn't flinch. Her voice is firm as she declares her dream: no matter what happens to the world, she's going to help people. Her resolve is unshakable. Even as her body weakens, even as her condition deteriorates, she continues. Her sister suggests going to the hospital, but Joyeon refuses. She pushes through the pain, and her perseverance pays off. Her grades soar. Celebration erupts in her household when she finally gets accepted into nursing school. Laughter, pride, and hugs fill the air. Back in the present, Joyeon rushes out of the hospital. Her eyes land on the familiar figure, and relief washes over her. She checks him quickly, hands scanning for injuries. He brushes off the concern with a reassuring smile and introduces Yang-Su, who stands nearby. Joyeon bows in gratitude and hands Yang-Su a chocolate bar as thanks for helping her brother. Yang-Su waves it off, joking that he's had enough chocolate to last a lifetime. Time is short. The main character tells Joyeon there's a patient who needs help. She asks where, and he simply points to himself. The patient is inside his subspace, a hidden realm tethered to his ability. Joyeon pauses, confused, but he quickly explains. He's awakened. Revealing this power in public could cause trouble. It's safer to work inside the hospital, away from prying eyes. Within the subspace, Joyeon stands awestruck. Skyscrapers stretch into the sky, streets wind across the terrain. It's an entire city hidden in plain sight. He leads her swiftly to the patient, Han Young-ho. Joyeon assesses him immediately. Under ordinary circumstances, the man wouldn't make it, but fate tilts in his favor as she, too, is awakened. Her healing ability may be limited, but it's enough to stabilize him. With proper food and rest, he stands a real chance. The man with the plan watches her work in silence, recalling her past words about healing others no matter what. Her actions now speak louder than ever. Meanwhile, Joyeon mutters about how she should have been stricter with her brother when they were younger. He hands her bread, a gift from Yong-Soo's wife, and suggests she take a break while they talk. As she eats, he recounts the chaos he endured being trapped in the factory, Pax's timely rescue, and the wild turn of events since then. As if on cue, Yong-Soo's wife appears with more bread and tells Joyeon she's prepared the staff lounge for her to rest in. Joyeon nods in appreciation but turns to her brother, brows furrowed. She wants to know how they ended up staying here. He throws his hands up in exasperation, wondering if she wasn't paying attention. He gives her the short version he's planning to bring their parents into the subspace and travel to Yojiro to find their other sister. Joyeon takes a deep breath and makes her own declaration. She's staying at the hospital. He blinks, caught off guard. Is it because of the patients? He assumes so, and she agrees, adding that there's more. In another wing of the hospital, head Jin Seong-hak reviews the recent events. He talks with his staff about the dramatic arrival of military vehicles crashing through walls, new faces with unknown abilities. One of the guards mentions that one of them is Joyeon's brother. Jin Seong-hak waves it off. If anything, Joyeon's connection gives them leverage. He instructs the staff to ration food supplies and exploit Joyeon's position. Then he questions his guard behind him if these newcomers are stronger than he. The man hesitates. That silence is telling. Jin Seong-hak smiles coldly and instructs him to welcome the newcomers. He adds that the wall has already been fixed. No loose ends. Back in the subspace, Joyeon drops the real bombshell. Jin Seong-hak isn't just some opportunistic leader, he's actively poisoning people and using that power to control them. Many of the awakened are no longer themselves. They obey only him. Joyeon has been secretly collecting mana stones, enhancing her healing ability little by little, trying to undo the damage caused by the poison. She pleads with her brother to take their parents and run. He promises she'll survive, but he shakes his head. Leaving her behind isn't an option. Joyeon explains that Jin Seong-hak controls the hospital through food. Anyone who disobeys him starves. It's a tight grip, and it's working. A quiet rage burns in our hero's eyes. He steps forward, summoning a supply of energy bars and combat rations, which startled his sister. Jin Seong-hak stares at the report in front of him, his expression twisting into disbelief. It claims that Joyeon's brother has just delivered an enormous amount of food. He scoffs and waves it off with arrogant dismissal. In his mind, 2 people and a single military vehicle could never bring anything significant. He leans back with smug confidence, certain that this desperate little act will crumble. Soon they'll come crawling back, begging for rations. To him, their so-called generosity is nothing more than childish naivety. But that confidence shatters when a subordinate bursts in with a fresh update. The newcomers haven't just brought food, they've delivered more than the entire hospital currently stores. Jin Seong-hak goes stiff. His brain whirs, scrambling for an explanation. The numbers don't add up. This shouldn't be possible. He mutters to himself, pondering if they might have strange abilities, perhaps something that can replicate supplies, shrink them, or enlarge them at will. To him, it's the only logical conclusion. He slams his hand on the desk. They must be ability users. Without hesitation, he issues an order to capture them immediately. Then comes the next move, cold and calculated. He pulls out a vial of a potent, highly addictive drug and hands it to one of his soldiers. The instructions are crystal clear. Get the intruder hooked at any cost. If that fails, eliminate him. Before the soldier exits, Jin Seong-hak demands more information about the second person who arrived alongside him. Meanwhile, inside the hospital, Joyeon's brother moves through the hallways with sharp intent. Each door he pushes open, each corridor he scans, reveals nothing. Frustration prickles at his nerves. The people he's searching for are nowhere in sight. Every moment wasted adds to his irritation. Joyeon catches up and probes about his plan to strip Jin Seong-hak of his real weapon food. He lays it out with quiet precision. Distribute their own food supply, dismantle the system built on addicted ability users, and finally deal with Jin Seong-hak himself. To him, the warlord is nothing more than an irritating obstacle. Curious, he asks Joyeon to elaborate on the abilities of the enemy users. She begins listing them off. One can reseal open cans. Another automates laundry. The man struggles to hide the disbelief flashing across his face. These powers sound laughably trivial, but then Joyeon's tone turns serious as she mentions a name that shifts the mood. Song Kyung-go. She explains that Kyung-go traveled from Yojiro, driven by worry for his hospitalized mother. Unlike the others, his strength is real, terrifyingly real. Joyeon points out the mountain of crushed vehicles outside, revealing that Hyungu built the entire barricade by himself, with nothing but raw power. Later on, a figure approached from down the hall. He steps forward and calls out to Joyeon's brother, referring to him by another name, Nurse Kim. The man wants to talk in private. He agrees, adding that he too has unfinished business with Hyunga. The taller man steps into the light and confirms what everyone suspects. It's Hyunga. For a moment, confusion flickers across Hyunga's face, but it doesn't last. The moan has already begun to spiral forward. Tension electrifies the air outside. Hyunga wastes no time. He presents a grim choice: either drink a mysterious vial or die. There's no middle ground, but our hero doesn't flinch. Calm and unshaken, he proposes a third option. Hyunga lunges with terrifying momentum, but the moment he moves, his opponent reacts. A glowing portal flashes into existence. With a flick of his wrist, Joyeon's brother launches a high-spin bowling ball straight through the subspace portal. It rockets toward Hyungu at 90 kilometers per hour and slams into him with brutal force, sending the giant man crashing backward across the pavement. He mutters something about the speed, then preps another. Hyunga, dazed and disoriented, tries to understand what just happened. The next projectile emerges slower, heavier, and designed to break bones. Joyeon's brother delivers a firm warning. And then the real assault begins. One after another, 20-kilogram weights pour from the portal. They stack atop Hyungu like a crushing avalanche. Rage erupts from the pinned man as he struggles beneath the growing pile. His muscles scream with effort, but the metal keeps coming, unrelenting and cold. Joyeon's brother watches with clinical calm. He thanks Hyungu for staying still, noting how much easier that makes the process. He promises to remove the weights once everything is secure. Later, Joyeon comes running up, asking if he encountered Hyungu. She mentions hearing a crash. He nods, casually stating that he's heading back. Joyeon spots the broken figure beneath the pile and gasps in horror. She demands to know what happened, but he brushes it off. It has a long story. His focus shifts. He asks if the food has been distributed. Joyeon confirms it has. Now they wait for Young-soo's return. Not long after, Young-soo stumbles in, clutching his head and wincing in pain. He groans about a piercing headache. Joyeon narrows her eyes, instincts kicking in. Something isn't right. She examines his hand and notices a small cut on his finger. Our hero quickly connects the dots. The poisoning must have occurred during the food handout. Joyeon inspects the wound and confirms that this was no accident. It was a deliberate act. They decide to isolate Young-soo for now. He agrees, concern etched across his face. They need Jin Song-hak alive, only he knows the cure. He escorts Young-soo into the subspace. As the door seals shut, a system message flashes. An unidentified external energy source has been blocked. The space remains secure. Inside, Young-soo takes a deep breath and realizes the headache is gone. Relief barely has time to settle before a new figure appears inside the sealed subspace. Realizing that the subspace could cure the issues, he does the same for Sun Hyungu, bringing him in and out of the subspace, making the mind control cut off. Silence follows. The realization dawns that the subspace not only protects the physical body, it guards against mental attacks as well. Back outside, Hyung stands beside his mother's hospital bed. His voice is soft, comforting, and he apologizes and she tells him it's not his fault. He then tells her she should rest. He has unfinished business to settle. The memory of being buried under steel still burns in his bones. But this isn't about revenge. It's about resolution. He leaves with a word of thanks and an apology. He owes a debt. He assures Joyeon he'll return. Later that night, Joyeon and Young-soo speak quietly. Concern lingers between them. Hyunga's strength is overwhelming. Tomorrow could demand difficult choices. Now Hyung storms into Jin Song-hak's office. Jin Song-hak stammers, finally understanding the weight of what's coming. He starts to beg, but Hyung doesn't answer. One step forward, one massive punch, and the man collapses, unconscious.